Good afternoon. It's me, Pat Miller, Gabby, and I'm very excited for our weekly section. I have to bring my desk down a bit of the Gabb. And there's a very fabulous young lady joining us today. I call you Rocky, but you have a whole real name.
I go by many names. My birth name is Raquela, which comes from a Hebrew name, and I get called Raquelita by my loving Latin friends, and I got called Rocky by people who prefer not to butcher either of those.
I was told your name was Rocky, so would you prefer I called you something else?
No, Rocky's perfect.
Oh, because I've just been calling you Rocky all along.
I have a heart for Rocky, the Rocky Mountains, and where I live, so I use that name proudly. So yes,
Oh,
Rocky's great.
oh, good. And you have a fabulous little spot. Has nothing to do with the name Rocky. It's Elita's, and it's
Yes,
Elita's Market and Kitchen in Stanley Marketplace. How did you get
yes.
Elita's out of all of this?
So, like I said, my name is Raquela. Some of my Mexican friends call me Raquelita, which is kind of a loving name. And I took the name Eli in Hebrew, which means basically, it's just a common name. It could be John, but it just means, you know, prosperous, person. So I smushed those names together and came up with Elita. And I think it rolls off the tongue
Oh,
nicely.
it does. Okay, well, you have an interesting story. Let's briefly tell your story and then get to the important part of the fabulous food and such. But tell us your background a bit.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This is the fun part of life, so thank you. So good to see you finally, and thank you for letting me tell my story. So, um, yeah, I grew up kind of a combination of San Diego, California, Los Angeles, and hopped back and forth to Mexico. My dad was an expat, and he built a house in Mexico, and decided in his later years he wanted to live there. So he hired somebody to help him. He was older, and that ended up being my mother.
Yeah.
And so he was 69 years old. My mom was in her early 30s. And I grew
Was
up,
that all when you were born?
he was that old when I was born.
Woo!
He had some stamina, obviously.
Yeah.
So I grew up watching my mom cook in the kitchen, and just really that was a instant influence for me. Was kitchen equals love equals stability equals mom. So I lost her at a very young age. He was the older one, but she ended up passing away from breast cancer. And I ended up being tossed around. He was older, he couldn't take care of me. So I just got tossed around to friends and family, and he kind of paid them. And I would visit him on the weekends. And something would always happen, either they wanted to adopt me or something was going on, and he didn't allow, me to really get attached to anybody. So I went from home to home and got to gather this information of the kitchen, because I realized right away, as I'm living with these families who, are taking responsibility of me, but don't necessarily love me the way my parents would, that they would get a kick out of me being so small and wanting to be in the kitchen. And so it kind of was a bargaining chip all of a sudden. And I grew up, you know, um, putting on that show. And it eventually became the love of my life, to cook, to make people happy through my food, and not to try to be a perfectionist about it, but to have these goals of connecting food, love, and creating a family that I didn't necessarily have the typical family. So
Wow.
one of my biggest influences in this time that I was living with people was my Aunt Irene, who I didn't know until later in life was my father's ex-wife. but
Oh,
I was told to call her Aunt Irene, so I did. But she was a Tunisian lady, French Tunisian, and she taught me Mediterranean food, which totally flipped the script on me because I was used to Mexican food and it was time-consuming ingredients, just a lot of hoopla. And then with her, it was very simple, clean ingredients, and she would put them together. And I remember tasting, something that took 25 minutes and thinking that's not going to be the same. And it was bright, fresh, and even better. So yeah, I was lucky and unlucky, but now I see myself as very lucky with all of those
well, I'd love
experiences.
to hear more about this story, but I don't think that's why we're here today. That's a story for, I only knew some parts of this, so fascinating way to grow up.
Yep.
Not exactly typical, but there you were.
There I
So
was.
now you came to Colorado.
So at 11, I was adopted. I lived in Los Angeles for, the rest of the time. I was adopted by an Israeli man and a lady from Colorado. And as I was looking at schools, I remember my new adoptive mom kind of telling me stories of Colorado and how much she loved it. So when uh, when I chose where to go, I kind of gravitated towards Colorado and was very glad I did. So I ended up driving my little Hyundai from California here to Johnson and Wales, just a few blocks down of where I live now, and started my journey, my professional journey.
Well, I went there too, so
I
yay
know.
for all
I
both
know.
of us. All right, and that's how that started. So you
Yes.
did get adopted. Makes me feel better.
Yes.
I know I'm Jewish. Makes me very nervous. Anyway, and now you opened up Elita's. Is that the first place you've opened and done stuff at?
No, so right after college, I moved to Israel at the behest of my parents. They lived in Los Angeles, and my dad decided he wanted to, he adopted me as a single man and then got married and had a couple of boys who are my brothers. And as they were growing up, he didn't really dig what was going on in Los Angeles and kind of having them grow up behind kind of a gilded cage of gates. He wanted to see them ride their bikes up and down the street the way that he did. And so they picked up and moved to Israel while I was in school. And the second I was done, he said, "You're moving here with me. I want to teach you how to run a business." And so that's what happened. I moved to Israel. I started working in some really nice kitchens, which was probably one of the funnest times in my life to work in Tel Aviv. And and as I started to learn Hebrew, I started a Mexican catering company in Israel, and it took off. I stayed there for 6 years, and you just have sometimes this little whisper in your heart and your soul that tells you, "This is great, but this isn't it for you." And I knew I had to come back to Colorado.
I'm exhausted. Okay, so let's talk about Elita's at Stanley Marketplace.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me all about that.
So I moved back. Um, I went to Mikasa Resource Center and kind of,
I raise money for them. Okay.
you do. So I went to Mikasa Resource Center and kind of polished my business skills again and was around the Latin community and people, kind of with the same goals and drives. I had to put myself in an environment like that again. I was a GM for a couple of places and just knew I had to go back to my roots. So um, I was offered to manage what was called the Juniper Pig before at the Stanley Marketplace. I had walked into the Stanley Marketplace and fallen in love with this charming little shop. And within a year, I got a phone call, which to me felt like divine intervention, if I have to be honest, saying, "Would you like to run this shop?" And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And at that time, I was working at Safta. We had just opened Safta, which is an Israeli place with Chef Alon Shaya.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, of course. And respectfully, left Safta and started working for this very German inspired butcher shop, and started becoming part of the community and really putting my DNA into the shop, because the owner kind of let me, let me go and said, this is kind of your spot. And eventually he made it very clear that he no longer wanted to be owner, and I definitely did. It had already become my baby, so now it just had to be official. Then the pandemic happened, and I didn't change my mind. I went ahead, and I mean, the day I was supposed to sign the lease was the first day of the pandemic closure.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a butcher shop, yes, but you have more.
Yes. So for the almost 2 years that I ran the shop for him, I kind of started gathering information because, like I said earlier, everybody has an ego and everything, but I've tried to remove my ego as much as I can from my art and really make people happy and listen to what they want. So I gathered the information as I ran it. What do people in this market want? And when I did take over, I expanded the menu. I put a lot of healthier options on. Everything was made, I started making hummus and all of my salads and salsas fresh. I knew that would take off. So I kept the things that I knew people loved. Our marinated chickens, our marinated flank steaks, our handmade sausage. I couldn't, let go of that, but I really started injecting my Mediterranean Latin roots into the shop, into the menu, into the artwork on the wall, and really made it my own.
Okay, do people, are there tables to eat in there?
There's tables to eat. There's a beautiful open outdoor space.
And great
We're really lucky. What's that?
And great carry out.
Great carry out. I mean, the people who live around the Stanley Marketplace really kept the heartbeat going.
I don't live around there, and if I could be there every day, I would, just to come to Elita's. Okay,
Yeah.
So you have fabulous meats. My friend who's the meat expert says it was the best steak he's ever had. The marinated Dijon chicken, I am dying for again, and I haven't been able to get it, but it was simple. Oh, so I just wish I had it for dinner, but I don't.
We're gonna bring you some.
I hope I
We'll get
really.
over.
Anyway, then there's that. And then you have all sorts of meats and things that you
Yeah.
sell, chickens.
Yeah.
Now get to the other things and let's talk about that menu of carry out, of which I have had many things, all of which are incredible. But you start.
So I really wanted to marry the two biggest influences in my life, culinary wise, which are Latin and Mediterranean. I don't need to keep it very, very strict. They're all influences. For me, I wanted to keep the characteristic of those two, which is bright, fresh, beautiful food, beautiful fuel for your body.
Oh, you're doing it perfectly.
That you don't feel like, curling up like a fat cat and just sleeping the rest of the day after it. So
well, I
that
could
was my
sleep
goal.
before or after. But okay, you make a hummus, I know, and you make a spicy hummus, and then you can buy a bowl with pork in it, is one of your dishes.
So we have our al pastor hummus bowl, which is kind of the perfect marriage of the Mediterranean and Mexican ideal that I'm carrying. So there's the Chipotle hummus that we make with tahini, the al pastor flavored pork with pineapple, fresh pineapple salsa, our hibiscus marinated onions, some cilantro, fresh lime, a little bit of sumac and salt on the top, and we make this wonderful kind of chili garlic oil and brush our flatbread. So it's a meal with different components, and I'm trying my best to serve fast casual with the flavors that you would get at a place where you're spending probably triple.
Well, it wouldn't be as good. And there's several kinds of hummuses and first courses.
Yes.
Appetizers. I
So
don't know.
we have sandwiches, flatbreads.
I had the sandwiches. I have not had a flatbread.
I really recommend our
Okay.
Lernergez flatbread. It's
Yeah.
our lamb sausage that we make in house, and we make a flatbread with it, with our house-made pickles. Also, we have a quinoa bowl, which has avocado and cabbage and Israeli salad and all of pepitas, all of these different textures, which you can get as is, or you can add an egg to it, or you can add our house-made barbacoa. That's my favorite. If I were make myself something to take home, it would be a quinoa bowl with barbacoa on it. That's
Quinoa is not my favorite, but okay. But I do love flatbread. I've had your sandwiches. Your salads are fresh and wonderful. You make a Mediterranean salad.
Yep, a fattoush.
And is that what I had?
Yes, you had a fattoush salad.
And then you sometimes put chicken shawarma on it,
Yes.
which was another treat. We've had your soups, so you could tell us about some of those.
We have a pozole that sells like crazy.
It was delicious.
We've kind of we've been working on that recipe for a while now, and I
It's
think
got huge chunks of pork in it.
yes. So the regular pozole usually has a lot of bones in it. I try to keep it really clean and family friendly, so the pork that you get, you don't kind of have to
Oh, no, it was fabulous.
worry that your kid's gonna choke on a neck bone or something like that. So it's very clean, but the spices are really developed. We started today making some fresh handmade tortillas with duck fat, which I'm
Oh,
really excited about.
that sounds good to me.
I think would pair beautifully with the pozole, roll it up, dip it in the soup. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you change the menu each day?
I don't change the menu each day, but I do like to, our menu, our basic menu stays the same. In the case, you'll always find sausage, you'll always find those flat iron chickens unless we really had a crazy week. You'll always find local Colorado steaks. But with the menu and with the case, I like to keep it different because so much of our audience lives right near us.
Right.
I want them to find something different and exciting for dinner versus
I think of that every day. It's not very exciting over here. I have to open an outlet. And you're open every day?
We're open every day from 10 to 8. We have a new person on staff who's baking a lot for us and making tortillas, so she'll open a little bit earlier sometimes, but those are our regular hours, 7 days a week, 10 to 8.
Love tortillas. I mean, if they're homemade.
Yeah.
And it's ELITA apostrophe S.
Yes.
And the phone number?
The phone number, I give out my personal phone number. I know this isn't
You're crazy,
typical,
but okay.
but it's 720-231-7965. And I encourage anybody to shoot me a text and ask me, what do you have on the menu? If you're working on a special recipe, if you are spoiling your family and want a filet mignon roast, you can shoot me a text and I'll have it ready for you. And if I don't have it in house, I can get it, within the next few days. So that's the way I like to start my relationship with my clients.
And you're right on the first floor of Stanley Marketplace.
Yep, right sandwich between the donut shop and the barbecue shop.
Why not? That's as good a place as any to be.
Yes.
And it is fun out there and you can wander around as well. Do you have a website?
I do. It's elitafoods.com, ELITAFOODS.com.
Not ELITAS?
No, just elitafoods.com.
Okay.
And the name of the shop, I'm sorry, I should have corrected you. It's just Elita Specialty Market and Kitchen, but a lot of people are starting to call it Elitas.
I didn't know. I was told that. Okay. Yeah. And your menu is online?
Yes. Yep.
Well,
and the specials aren't constantly updated online, but that's why I kind of like to
So, okay, what's today's special?
So today we're doing those
Tortilla.
duck tortillas, yeah. And we also have some tortilla crusted chicken breast, which I kind of marinated like you would fried chicken. So instead of buttermilk, I did some Greek yogurt, Peruvian spices, and then breaded it in the crispy tortillas. So all you have to do is bake it off.
I'll take 2. Now I could have dinner tonight if only I could get there. But, oh, that sounds divine. And so every day, I know one day you made the lentil soup with lamb.
Yes.
Which was beyond incredible as well. So it's just something new and different, plus a regular meat market.
Right. So we have kind of a fast casual Latin Mediterranean menu, meat counter where we also present all of the hummus, dolmas, house-made pickles, a bunch of little containers. It almost looks like a candy shop.
I've never seen those.
The different sausages, which are also beautiful and different colors we make. Pork chorizo verde, which I got a compliment from a Mexican lady who said it had been some of the best pork chorizo verde she had ever had. We make a duck sausage, a lamb gyro sausage, and they're all very bright and beautiful. And
you must cook a lot.
You know, I'm lucky enough to have partnered up with somebody who is also a great cook.
Oh, okay.
And I tell him all the time, you know, when he cooks for me, it really feeds my soul because I really think it's the biggest gift, you know, we can give each other as human beings is make a hot,
well,
love
it
meal.
Sounds wonderful. I've had appetizers, I've had chicken, I've had salads, I've had sandwiches, I've had soups, and I'll just keep trying until I can't try anymore because it's all wonderful. And so are you.
I'm going to take your address and I'm going to send one of my employees with a little care package for you and we'll leave it in front of your door.
Okay, but I can't give you my address. Well, I can't give it to you here.
No, yes.
Unlike you.
On the hush hush.
Not giving everybody. But it has been such a treat knowing you. And of course, I want to know more about you all the time. And if this ever ends, we can even get together and spend time together. And it's been an honor for me to get to visit with you. I mean, Rocky, Raquel, Raquelita, whatever you are, amazing. Elita, Elita
Foods, yes, at the wonderful Stanley Marketplace.
It is, and there's lots of parking. And just go in, take everything out. You'll be so happy. You are divine. Thank you for spending
Back at you. Thank you so much.
Much love. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.
You too.